Today's one of those rare days where we focus in on one person in history, and we're going to think really hard, not just about what he did, but about how we should remember him and how his history should be taught and communicated and why. Christopher Columbus. Columbus was an explorer typical of explorers in the age of exploration. He was after riches, he was looking to improve his status in life, and he believed that he could find a way to the Indian Ocean trade network that would be faster than going all the way around Africa by sailing west. A common misconception is that he was the only person who thought the Earth was round. That's not true. That was something commonly known to educated people at the time. But he did sail off in uncharted waters, and that took some guts. That said, after he got to the New World, several things happened. First, he didn't realize where he was. He initially believed he was going to the East Indies, but instead landed in the Americas and the Caribbean. Next, his arrival resulted in an encounter between peoples who had not only been isolated for all of human history, but who didn't know that each other existed. He thought he was in India, so he called them Indians, but actually these were the natives of the New World, the Americas. In bringing together the Old World, by which is meant Europe, Africa, and Asia, and the New World, the Americas, Columbus's landing opens a period of truly global history for the first time. Often this class is taught in terms of, should we think of him as a hero or a villain? And actually, even though it's on my slide, that's terrible framing. For one thing, pure heroes and pure villains rarely exist in history. That's an incredibly simplistic way to think about human beings and what they do. But secondly, it's not really a debate. Columbus's actions speak for themselves, and you're going to discover that. So what I actually want you guys to think about as we go through the lesson and the sources isn't, is he a hero or was he a villain? But I want you to think about why it matters how we remember him, and why it matters how we teach him to little kids, and what message that communicates. The typical way Columbus is taught in schools in the United States shows him to be an intrepid discoverer of a new Americas, a new continent, the United States, right? Not only did he not discover the United States, he never set foot on it. He didn't know where he was. He wasn't the only person to think the Earth was round, but also he did some pretty horrible things directly once he got here. So this like cartoon vision of like Europeans coming to the Americas and then, you know, Thanksgiving happened and everything in between's kind of fuzzy. That's no good. That's not great history. Not only did he not discover the continent, like people were living here, but also, again, his actions once he got here were questionable. So the real question, why does it matter how we remember him? Why would people in charge of public schools want him celebrated in a certain way? What social group benefits from the idea that it was a good thing for white Europeans to come to the New World and take power, despite all the violence? But also the good historical question would be like, by what standards do we judge him? Do we judge him by our moral standards? Do we judge him by the context of his time? And if so, what was that context? Were alternatives available? Did other people act differently once they got here? Those are the better historical questions than hero or villain. As a reminder, history is always political, and the way that we choose to teach it to children matters, especially when we choose to teach lies. Not too long ago, the state of Texas curriculum wanted Columbus taught as a model of good civic habits, whatever that means. And we tend to be in the news a lot for questionable choices about the way we frame history, including the recent article from 2010, I guess not so recent for you guys, but I'm old, in which slaves were referred to as workers, like people who just came here to, anyway. I'll let you guys form your own opinions. In any case, here are the key points for the day. So please get these in your notes so that we can properly evaluate Columbus. Columbus initially believed he was going to the East Indies, but instead he landed in the Americas. His arrival resulted in an encounter between peoples who had not only been isolated for all of human history, but who did not know that each other existed. So in bringing the Old World and the New World together, we now have global history, a true history of every civilization on the globe as one. His arrival is controversial, and your job is to determine how we should remember Columbus, by what standards we should evaluate him, and why it matters. On one hand, Columbus is celebrated in the United States for initiating or starting off the encounter that made the New World, the Americas, as we know it, possible. His voyage brought global history together. Without the Columbian Exchange, the network of trade that resulted from his encounter, and the possibility of colonizing the New World, European society might well have been stuck in a pattern more aligned to the Middle Ages than one that could produce the Renaissance, the Golden Age that we're about to study. So, great for Europe. On the other hand, others see Columbus as the first agent of a genocide, or the root cause of a genocide in the New World, for having started the encounter between Europeans and natives that, through direct violence and conquest, and indirectly through the spread of European diseases that the natives didn't have any immunity to, contributed to the eventual elimination of most New World native cultures and peoples. Over the next several lessons, your job is going to be deciding how we evaluate Columbus. Should it be in his historical context? Was he any different from the norm in Europe? Does society shape a person, or are there universal standards of behavior that everybody can be expected to adhere to? Do we evaluate him by his personal actions, or the standards he sets, or by the long-term effects of his actions, like the things that happen as a result of what he did? Do the benefits to us now outweigh the bad things that happened to people in the past? And why does it matter? To what extent is violence acceptable in society? To what extent is violence in the name of progress acceptable? How much progress has to occur to justify the violence in the past? Can ideas alone, can ideology justify it? Like if people think they're doing a good thing, but they're actually doing a bad thing, are they off the hook? Is it okay for a few people to suffer for the majority to live better? And is life more important than quality of life?